it's that time of week again. It's time for Diary of a Physicist Farmgal, episode number 24. My name is Deborah, and I am coming to you here from my family farm in the foothills of the Ozark Mountains in Arkansas. And I like to do all the crafts. I knit, I crochet, I sew, I quilt, I make baskets, I make jewelry. I like to make soap. I'm learning to make candles. There's all kinds of things that I like to try to do. And I'm willing to try any craft once and twice if I like it. I'm also a professor of physics and astronomy at a local university where I teach classes to general education students on physical science, and I also teach majors classes on modern physics, science literacy, and astrophysics, as well as meteorology, which is what our science segment's going to be about today, and it also goes in with my farming segment too. Because I am a farmer. I am living on land that my family has lived on for over a century. I am the third generation of my family to own this farm. And prior to that, my family were actually tenant farmers here on this land. I have 170 acres where I raise grass-fed cattle. I also raise horses, and I have show poultry and show rabbits, which you're going to hear more about because it's county fair time. Woo! I also have a retirement herd of miniature horses, miniature donkeys, and a miniature mule named Pumpkin who thinks she rules the roost. She's not a miniature pumpkin, she's a miniature mule, but her name is Pumpkin, and there is nothing little about her personality. And as you can tell from my sweet co-host here, Willie, for those of y'all who know him, I am fur kid mom to 14 dogs, 6 indoor cats, and an undetermined number of outside cats. So if you think that sounds interesting, if you're a new viewer, welcome to the Funny Farm. And if you're a returning viewer, well, I'm sure I'm glad you've come back again to visit with me on episode number 24 of Diary of a Physicist Farmgal. Okay, if you're looking for us on social media, you can find me on Instagram and on Ravelry as Doc Firewoman. Also, there is a Ravelry group for the podcast, Diary of a Physicist Farmgal, where you can find out about make-alongs and giveaways, and we'll talk about some make-alongs here in just a second. My Facebook page for my farm is the same as my YouTube channel name, which is Buckthorn Farms. And also my email address is given below for my farm email if you would like to find me on there. I am also on Twitter as Doc Firewoman, but just a little bit of a warning, I am a big old liberal snowflake, and that is where I vent my political frustrations. So if that kind of thing frustrates you, you might not want to go over to Twitter. I try to keep it to a minimum elsewhere just because I know arguing with people about politics on social media is like screaming into a hurricane and hoping that somebody hears you. It is just not a wise use of my time. So, but anyway, Twitter is there if that sort of thing appeals to you, but if not, that's good too. Okay, so make-along news. We have got 2 make-alongs running right now. The first one is the Share the Warmth make-along, where we are aiming to make items for charity. It is running from now through December the 15th. And we are making items for charity, and it is a broad range of things that I define warm. It can be physical warmth, so you can make hats or scarves or mittens or blankets for a homeless shelter or for a senior citizens shelter or for an animal shelter. I don't know if the animals would want to wear mittens, but they might wear hats and scarves. Or you can make things just to bring spiritual warmth or emotional warmth. Maybe the cancer-kicking critters like Shirley Knits 123 makes, or stuffed animals, or a sweater, or I think it was Downriver Knitter is the one who made the scarf that she might give to someone that she saw at a restaurant. Things like that. Just that, y'all know what the right good thing is to do. So y'all, I'm trusting y'all to do that. It is a participation knit along. It is a finished object make along. There is a chatter thread. I am going to open an FO thread probably tonight. It is an FO, so post as many FOs as you want. I don't care. And we already have a prize. No, not for this one. Scratch that. Forget I said that. That is for the other make-along. Boy, you can tell I'm doing this flying by the seat of my pants today, aren't you? Woo! Anyway, I will get some prizes for that, never fear. Don't know what they'll be yet, but I'll figure something out. But that is a finished objects prize thread that I will open very soon. Now, the other make-along that I keep trying to talk about is the I Am Worth It make-along. This is a make-along where we are going to finally cast on or start hooking or start sewing or whatever it is, that special yarn or special fabric or special project that always seems to get kicked down the road for ourselves. Most of us tend to put family first or friends first. I know I certainly do. And so sometimes we want to make things for ourselves, but we're like, well, we'll do that later. We'll do that later. So whips are allowed if you have started something for yourself and it kind of got put on the back burner because of making things for other people. I know Antonia mentioned she had a flax sweater that she had started and she ended up stopping it to make a baby gift. I think it was a baby gift. But at any rate, whips are allowed. It is a participation make-along. So just start it. Just come on and start something. I am going to start my In the Rough mystery knit-along. It is probably the most challenging thing I've ever made, but it is for me, and it is mine, all mine. And also, I may start something else for myself. We'll see. I've got a crochet project in mind I want to start. But anyway, so it is wide open to any kind of craft. I don't care. Cross stitch, sewing, crocheting. I don't care. Just make something for y'all self, because you know what? You can't pour from an empty cup. Oh, Lordy, how well do we know that to be true? You can't pour from an empty cup. So let's take care of ourselves. Now, we do have a prize for that. My friend Charlotte from April 9 Designs on Etsy, who makes beautiful, beautiful bags that you see all the time with my projects in them. She sent this beautiful yarn bowl bag, and it is perfect fabric because it's horses, and she knows I love the horses. It's April 9 Designs on Etsy. Her bags are superior quality. They're very good value for money, and she was the first person, as soon as she saw the post about the make along, she said, I would love to donate this prize. So this will be one of the prizes for the make along. Don't know what else we'll put with that, but we'll figure something out. It'll be good stuff, I promise, because I like to give away good stuff. So the prizes are making it to the 100 subscriber winners. I know that Christine received her prize and Jessica's card also, which I stuck in there. Y'all, I went to the post office to mail those things, and there was a lady in there, and she was just giving it this. And I was trying to be polite and talk to her, and the register person was talking to her, and I was just like, oh, I can't. I mean, I had to open stuff up once, and then I guess I messed it up anyway. So thank you, Christine, for mailing Jessica's card. Woo! You know, small town stuff. Everybody knows everybody. So anyway, we'll get it figured out. But anyway, that make along is going on now through the end of the year. So through December 31st, that make along is going on. I would like to share with you a couple of other of my podcaster friends' giveaways and make-alongs. First of all, A Historian Knits, Vanessa, the A Historian Knits podcast, is running a make-along through the end of the year where you can knit any of her patterns. She's getting ready to release her second sock pattern. And so she has a make-along running through the end of the year where you can do her ups and down socks, or I believe the new pattern is called in a porthole or stuck in a porthole. It's a reference to, what is that movie? Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, I think, is the movie with Marilyn Monroe. I can't remember. But anyway, go watch Vanessa's latest episode. She talks about it there. She's having a make-along, and she gives away great prizes. I won a prize from her Finish It Make-Along this summer, and it's a stupendously nice prize. Then Jessica from the Army Wife Knit Life podcast is having a 100 subscriber giveaway running only through Instagram. So you need to follow her on Instagram to be able to do that. But she's getting close to 100 subscribers, and she's going to be having a giveaway. So go over and give her channel some love and participate in that giveaway also. I'm trying to think, are there any other ones going on right now? I think the Unsung Heroes one is over, which ended on the September 1st, I believe, for the Yarn Hoarder. So I don't think there's any others that I know of that I'm participating in anyway. Y'all, I gave up on the socks a month. I ripped those socks out and I started them again. I did start them again, but I hadn't picked them up since I started them again. Anyway, so that's our social media news. That was kind of long. I'm sorry. That's our social media chit chat for this time. I don't have any FOs, but I'm going to share some of my fair entries with you. Yay! So that's going to be my finished objects segment this week. Alrighty, county fair season is upon us. Whoop, whoop, general quarters, general quarters. This is not a drill. This is not a drill. The county fair is next week. On Monday, we have to enter home ec entries, which is a good thing I looked, because you used to enter them on Tuesday, and now you enter them on Monday afternoon at 4 o'clock, between 4 and 8. You can enter, you don't enter, but you check in your rabbits. As an open competitor, I don't have to take my rabbits and leave them up there, but I do have to go and check my tattoo numbers and everything, which means I need to tattoo rabbits on Sunday. Yay! But yes, home ec entries are meant to be dropped off between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Monday. I did not take off of classes to do that, but I will leave campus and get home by noon, and I will take my home ec entries up there, which consist of my canning goods and my knitting and crocheting, my sewing, and then my home items. That's all I did this year. I only have 70 entries this year. Last year I had 114. I just ran out of gas. I think because my knitting and crocheting stuff is much more complicated than I did last year, so I just ran out of time. But hey, I've got a head start for next year, right? So I'm going to share with you a few of the things. I have been sitting at my kitchen table this afternoon watching a knitting podcast. I watched Jessica, Army Wife, Knit Life, his new podcast. I watched Vanessa's new A Historian Knits podcast. And I have been watching Edwardian Farm. Victorian Farm and Edwardian Farm are two BBC programs. I've been watching those, and I've also been listening to my friend Lewis's new CD, which I bought this weekend. So I sat with my pile of knitted things and wove in ends, and pretty much wove in the ends of every doggone thing that I've knitted or crocheted in the last year because I'm lazy and I just pile it all up. So I'm going to share with you some of my fair entries, and that will be my finished objects for this week. So let me make Willie get down. Jump down, buddy. Jump down. There you go. Okay. All right. So the first thing, since it's right here, is I made a crocheted basket. This is some yarn that I purchased. I purchased a bag of mixed craft supplies at Goodwill, and this is a very strange yarn. It's very thick, and it's kind of polyester-y feeling. So I thought it would make a great basket. So this is a crocheted round basket that I made. So that's, there is, in the crochet category, there is basket. So there you go. Okay. Then my next thing is my little Christmas bear. He will go under, I couldn't decide quite where to put him. So I put him under General Christmas Craft. I do need to fix, I made a little boo-boo there with fabric paint because I got too excited and I didn't let it dry. And I need to clip threads, you know, got to go through and do all your quality control stuff. So clip threads, make sure there's a minimal amount of animal hair on these things. That's why I don't let a lot of animals in my craft room, because I try to keep them off of that. So, because you don't want the animals laying on it or do or worse, going to the bathroom on it like one of the cats did last year on one of my quilted things, and then it smells funny. Anyway, so yeah, so there's my little Christmas bear. He will be one of my holiday entries. Then the other holiday entry will be my Thanksgiving entry, and you remember my turkey. So I've got my turkey here. He will go in Thanksgiving entries. All right, Thanksgiving craft. Then, in my Afghan, in crocheted Afghans, you guys remember my solar system blanket. So you remember all the hard work I did on this. Well, I've got to finish my Starship Enterprise so that I can get it on there. But I think I'm going to sit down tonight and make it real quick. It's made in little pieces and then you sew it together. So there's that. I'm trying to kind of stage everything together, but that's not working out so hot. Okay, now one thing that I haven't made yet, I do have an apron done. I do have the little Autumn Harvest apron done, but I see places where I could have done better on it, so I may, if I have time, make up these little gingerbread men aprons. Make one of these up. We'll see. I don't know if I'll have time or not, but if I do, I may make one of those up. So this little apron will go in the sewing division in apron. Okay, a little, and he's probably fine. I'm probably just being paranoid, but I've got to go through and clip threads off and get it ready. Then in the home goods category, I have my little ribbon pillow, and this was one of the very first things I showed on my very first podcast episode. And I noticed there's a place where the ribbon's coming loose, so I've got to go through and do that. Make sure, again, there's no threads or fuzz or whatever on it. Okay, my little ribbon pillow. Also in homewares, we have my mitts. We have my Mermaid Narwhal oven mitts that will go in that category. Also, now this is one thing I didn't get the ends woven in on yet because it's still wet from blocking. This is my Haley's Hug Cowl by Christine Chin, or Needle to Needle on Ravelry, or Bay Area Knitter on Instagram. This is a cowl, a DK weight cowl. I showed the pattern several times, okay? So I've got to get the ends woven in on it. It's still a little damp. I rinsed and blocked a bunch of stuff yesterday, and it was nice and sunny, and I put them outside. And it come a little afternoon thunderstorm on them and rained on them. So this one is still a little bit damp. I may actually throw that in the dryer for just a minute. That wool wash smells so good. I use that Eucalan wool wash and it smells so good. But anyway, so that will go under scarf or cowl. Knitted scarf or cowl. My Knitwit basket is going to go under baskets other. Baskets other. Now on it, I noticed that the lashing has kind of come loose right here, so I'm going to spray that with a spray bottle and get it damp and light and tighten that up. And then also all these little fuzzies that are sticking out, all you do is you take a lighter and those will burn off. So I've got to go around and burn those all off. I actually used this weekend at the retreat at the Escape Ranch to carry my stuff around in. So it actually got used like it was supposed to. So I've got to tuck my ends in and make sure everything is stuck in there. And where that's popping up, I may just put a little dab of glue on there or something. I kind of hate to, but I don't want it popping up if this dries and it doesn't push down on both of those like it needs to. So I may put just a little dab of glue on there to hold that down where the lashing has loosened up. So there's my Knitwit basket. That will be one of my basket entries, and the reason I put that there is so I could stick stuff back inside of it. Oh, and it's getting dark outside again. We have the remnants of a tropical storm coming over us, and it's one of those things where it's either going to rain for hours or it's not going to rain at all, and we got a little bit of rain and now it's starting to get dark again. But anyway, oh, I forgot to enter him. I've got my little reindeer. I've got to do an entry for him. I forgot. He will be Christmas, I guess Christmas ornament maybe. I don't know. We'll see what he goes in. We'll figure him out in a minute. And then I entered handmade toy. In the handmade toy category, I entered my Stubbo family. Remember, this was on my very first episode that I ever did, my Stubbo family. It's a pattern by Prince and Peddler, and it's a family of Stegosauruses. So I'm going to enter those in the handmade toy division. Okay, fix that light a little bit. It's kind of weird. Oh, ooh, I scratched myself. Okay, so that'll go in the handmade toy division. Then also in the crochet division, in purse or bag, I will put my Kelvin Monster pouch. In doll or toy, I will put my Chunky Bunny with his pom-pom of extraordinary size. My Chunky Bunny. These are both patterns by One Dog Wolf. Okay. And then in my crocheted shawl category will be my Kraken shawl by Two Hearts Crochet. Okay. So that will be in the crocheted category, shawl category. In the crocheted hat category, this is just my very vanilla beanie that I make. Okay, it's not anything complicated. And then in the knitted hat category, I'm going to put my antler hat by Tin Can Knits. And then in the wooden basket category, I'm going to enter my Cherokee bushel basket. So I've got to go through and make sure everything's tucked like it needs to be, and get rid of the fuzzies. So I will take care of that this weekend at some point. So let me put all these back in here. Okay. Alright, so we'll put that over here. In the sewing category, I'm going to enter my Halloween vest. I still need to sew the buttons on it and slip stitch the turning areas inside closed. So I'll put that. Then, let's see. Got all those. I have a piece of jewelry I need to finish. I bought some charms that I'll show in acquisitions, or some pendants. I'm going to make a piece of jewelry, but that won't take me very long to do. And then, in the knitted goods category, my knitted shawl category, I'm entering my Lunar Phase Mystery Knit-Along shawl. I blocked this yesterday and wove in the ends on it. So this is the Larissa Brown Mystery Knit-Along from the spring that I participated in, and it's the Lunar Phase Mystery Knit-Along shawl. So I'm going to be entering that in the knitted shawl category. Okay. Then, I didn't enter this. I need to go back and see if I can find a place to put it. This is my Jody, but I finally blocked it and wove in the ends on it. So, we did that. Okay. Y'all are going to laugh when I show you these. In the socks category, I'm entering my Cyril socks made out of that doggone Peyton's Croy yarn. You know why? Because these were the best looking heels I did. Of all the socks that I made, these were the best looking heels. So, as much as I cussed these socks while I was making them, they're going to the fair. Okay. I'm not entering this, but I finally blocked and wove in the ends on my Canyon Cowl. This yarn is by String Theory Colorworks. I am not taking this either, but I finally wove in the ends on my She Rises hat. And this is a slouchy fit, a nice slouchy fit ponytail hat by Risen Knits. And this will be nice this summer, or this winter. This will actually, I think, go underneath my riding helmet. But the next time I make it, I'm going to make it a little smaller, because I'm not a fan of the slouchy hats. But a lot of people are, and that's fine. And I mean, they have their place, but I'm not a fan of them, but I can fix that. Then in the knitting other category, there's like a general or miscellaneous knitting category. I'm going to enter my Helen Stewart shawl. Blocked it yesterday, pulled the picots down as best as I could. So I'm going to enter my Helen Stewart shawl in miscellaneous knitting. Willie, please wait. Now I didn't enter this, but this is my Mother's Gift Mystery Knit-Along shawl. It's a, what do you call that? Maybe a arrow-shaped shawl. I don't know what shape you would call that, but I did get the ends woven in. So, yeah, so I got that done. Hang on. So this is the Mother's Gift Mystery Knit-Along shawl, and I don't think I can find anywhere to enter this, but I sure do like how it turned out. So now that it's washed and blocked and the ends are woven in, I'm excited now for cooler weather to come so that I can start wearing all these. Then the last crocheted or knitted item is my tangram wrap. There is a different category for no, this will go under miscellaneous crochet. All right, so miscellaneous crochet, because I'm entering my Kraken shawl. But this is my 10-gram wrap, and this is also a pattern by One Dog Wolf. Yeah, so, and that is, and this is acrylic, so I actually put it in wool wash, but then, oh, here we go. The Hallelujah chorus. Put this in the dryer to dry it a while ago, and that actually helped it quite a bit. So, yeah, so those are my entries for the county fair. I will show you those pendants that I was talking about here in just a second, as soon as the dogs start hollering. So we're going to move on and talk about works in progress. Okay, well, it is starting to rain again, so I guess the next band of rain is moving over us. So I'm going to show you my works in progress. So my first one is in my Silver Shed USA Foxes bag. And this is the Sunrise, Sunburn, Sunset Cowl by Laura Concert of the A Crocheting Hoovian podcast. And I am getting close to being done with this, okay? I am on the last repeat, or I've done my last repeat of the eyelets, and now I've got the last little knitted section and then the ribbing. So I am almost done with this, okay? It's been a very enjoyable, fast knit, even though it's fingering weight. I got a lot done this weekend at the retreat. I sat and worked on it during the workshops and while we were sitting around the fire visiting and while people were playing music and stuff. So I got a lot done on it this weekend. This yarn is, the lights are turned way down low, cash silk sock. It's, all right. That was very, well, graceful, I guess. We only just dove off this over here. So it is Cash Silk Sock by Expressions Fiber Arts. It is wool, cashmere, and silk. There's no nylon content to it, and it feels just delicious. But that's some beautiful colors there. It's a beautiful colorway. I don't think you can get that colorway anymore. I think that was her last year's Christmas colorway. So I got that done. Or worked on that. I'm almost done with it. I'm going to work on it tonight and try to get it finished. I keep knocking the end off my sewing machine, y'all. Okay. In my Tesla Knits periodic table bag is those doggone socks. I did go ahead and frog them. These are the Couch and Crackers socks by Julia from the Happy Knitting podcast. And I did go ahead and frog them. And I have restarted them, trying to be much more mindful of my tension. So that's as far as I've gotten. I'm doing them toe up. I'm making them out of a Craftsy Cloudborne fingering colorway called Josh's Cat. Haven't really done a lot, but I think what I'm going to do with these is the rabbit show at the county fair. The kids go first. They start at 1 o'clock. Don't know when the open show starts. It starts when the kids are done, whenever time that is. So in the past, I've gotten up there between 4 and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then I've usually showed about 8 o'clock. So I'm going to take those with me and work on them while I'm sitting there. And I figure that'd be something good to pass the time of day. Now, in my April 9 Designs Alpacas bag, this is my We Were Seeds shawl. I really haven't done much to it, so it's kind of in the same place that it was at last time. But one thing that I'll point out about the April 9 Designs bags, you always get a little progress keeper or stitch marker with them. So this is a pattern by Riza Knits, and the yarn is by Honeybee Knits. It is her interpretation of the Countess Ablaze yarn, and it's called Be Positive. So there's that yarn and that project, and I will get back to that at some point. I hope. That's one, though, that I can't take with me somewhere and work on right now because I'm in a section that is not, that I have to pay attention to. I can't be talking to other people or whatever, working on that. And then, last but not least, in my Fat Bottom Bags Kitty Cat Moods bag, I have got my Starship Enterprise that I'm going to put on my solar system blanket. So I've got to get started on, I've made, well, this is the neck section. That doesn't look like much, does it? And then I had the saucer section made last time. So here's my saucer section, and then here is my neck section that will hold it onto the body of the starship when I get to that part. So I got to get that done if I'm going to put that on my Starship Enterprise for the county fair. So I've got to get that knocked out tonight, preferably, if I can. So so that is all of my current works in progress. I am going to wind yarn, I hope, tonight for my In the Rough mystery knit along and get started on it. I've got some circular needles put aside up at Stephanie's shop, knit two together, that I need to go pick up. But I can do the cast on straight needles, which is what I may do just to get it cast on. If I've got the right size, I'm pretty sure that I do. Go ahead and get that cast on tonight, because it is a cable cast on, and I've never done one of those. But of course, Very Pink Knits always comes to the rescue on stuff like that. So I will try to get that cast on tonight. And I've showed the yarn for that last time, so I'm not going to show it again this time. So that's all my works in progress. So we'll just quickly do a little bit of future crafting, and then we'll move on to acquisitions. Okay, so for future crafting, I'm going to show just a couple of things, actually just one thing, and then we'll move on to acquisitions. I bought some time back, again, this is a pattern by Choate Rink, and she's also known as One Dog Woof on Instagram and Ravelry, but she designs patterns for Lion Brand yarns. Well, you know that Lion Brand Yarns has these variegated yarns called the mandalas. Okay? And I see these and I go, ooh, aren't those pretty? And then I buy them and I don't know what the devil to do with them. So she came up with a pattern that was available as a kit from Lion Brand Yarn it was actually a good buy. It's called the Adirondack Wrap. Okay, the Adirondack Wrap. And I believe you can get this pattern for free from Lion Brand, but it utilizes the mandala yarn, and it's made in sections, and then it's crocheted together, kind of like that tangram wrap was made in, you did sections. So I want to start this as part of the I'm Worth It make along, because I've been wanting to make this for quite a while. The colorway that I picked out is called Warlock, and I think it's just this beautiful, very autumnal, earthy series of colors. So I want to start that as the part of the I'm Worth It make along, and I am a much faster crocheter than I am a knitter. So and this uses a J hook, so this thing is going to fly. So I want to try to get this, I may start this also to take with me up to the fair to have something to sit and work on. My other one was my Fox Paws, which I showed last time. I think I'm also going to cast this on as part of the I Am Worth It make along, because I've had this for quite a while. It's kind of folded up in there, but you can see that design. It's by Zandy Peters, and I showed the yarns last time, and it is called Glacier. I was right. It is called Glacier, but basically it's blue, like icy blues, and this purple and gray colors together. Okay, so it's like that sort of color story. So you can kind of see that light pale lavender there. So I'm going to try to get that started. Those are going to kind of be the two things I'm going to focus on for the I Am Worth It make along. Didn't get a lot of sewing done for the fair this year. Y'all, I just ran out of time, and you can only do so much. So maybe next year. So yeah, so let's move on and talk about acquisitions a little bit. Okay, so I have some crafty and some not handicrafty acquisitions this week to share. So first of all, one of the acquisitions that I have is some fabric that I actually scored at the thrift store. Our thrift store sells fabric, but I thought, it's rolled up, so you can't really tell a whole lot about it. When I unrolled this, what I realized is you could either make a cute little table runner because it's a long, narrow piece, and the way that it was trimmed in such a way that you could make a table runner, or I could cut these out and make big Christmas ornaments. And that may be what I do because I have a dog and cat Christmas tree, and these would be perfect for that. And come to think of it, if you look at this one, this kind of looks like Baxter, my big orange cat, and Satchel, my tuxedo cat. I don't have a cat that looks like that, really. It kind of could be like Cammy Cat. Okay, so yeah, so I found that, and that was the princely sum of 25 cents. Now, my jewelry that I want to enter for the fair, when I was at the retreat this weekend, there was a musician there called Mama Gina, and she and I have been friends on Facebook since Mystic South, and she actually drove up to Arkansas this weekend to participate in the event at the Escape Ranch, and she makes polymer clay medallions or pendants. Okay, and that one's got gold in it. It's kind of hard, the way the light's shining on it. Okay, so she makes these polymer clay medallions. That's supposed to be like a little mountain fairy. And y'all don't look at my nails. I didn't go get them done. And then that's a neat little sort of fairy looking creature. So and they've got copper wire. This one's got copper wire on the top of it. So I want to try to make a necklace to enter in the fair that has one of these in it. So I need to sit down. Notice I had my beads sitting out here. So I need to sit down and look at my beads and see what would look good with these. I'm sure I can come up with something. Okay, then another purchase that I made this weekend, there was an artist there named Stephanie Brown. She is from El Dorado, Arkansas, and she works a lot with natural materials, and she had this beautiful deer antler rattle there. She painted some sort of tribal looking symbols on it, or shamanic looking symbols. Here's her card. She is, and she does some beautiful artwork. She has an Etsy store called Painted Cave Studio. She had some beautiful artwork, but this is a rattle. Isn't it neat? She drilled and put in all those little brass beads, and the reason I got this one is I love that split brow tine. So this was a deer that her neighbor had hunted for food, and he gave her the antlers from it. So she's reusing, using all the animal. If you're gonna hunt, you should use as much of the animal as possible. So I just love how that sounds. And I like it because I can walk around and ward off the evil spirits out of my house with it, right? Get the good energy out, no, not the good out, the bad energy out, and let the good energy come in, right? So I thought that was beautiful. So I had a good visit with her and her husband, and hope to attend some of their classes that they offer down at their property in El Dorado. And then last but not least, my friend Lewis came up to visit. He was one of the performers. We met at Mystic South and sort of immediately hit it off because we're both farm kids. And so he was able to come up. He's from Tellico Plains, Tennessee, and he is sort of he calls his music dark Americana. It's kind of dark folk music, and he was there and played, and we had a great time. He doesn't normally play covers, but we had such a good time singing with him because, several of us have learned the words to his songs. And so I bought his CD. It's called Wolf at the Door, and you can order it from him, or I believe you can get it on like CD Baby if you want the electronic version. And these are all original tunes that he wrote himself, and they're, like I said, they're kind of dark Americana, and a little bit historical. Like he's got a song about the border reavers on the borderlands of England and Scotland. And so, yeah, so he did that. I was able to had a great time visiting with him and made a lot of new friends this weekend. It was a really good time. But we'll talk more about that in farm life-ish stuff. So that is, oh no, I've got one more. I've got another acquisition. Oh, I can't believe I almost forgot these. Pen Alchemy had a sale. And they do a lot of science-themed pens. So, of course, I had to have Science Matters. And this one is my favorite. It's the word teacher spelled out with elements on the periodic table. So it's technetium, actinium, hydrogen, and erbium. And those, technetium and erbium especially, but also hydrogen and actinium. Technetium and erbium have a dear place in my heart because when I was taking stellar interiors from my mentor, Dr. Cowan, John Cowan, he always made the joke that we knew elements were being produced in stars because you can't buy technetium at Homeland, which was a grocery store in Oklahoma. Because technetium has a very short half-life, well, short in that it's hundreds of thousands of years, not billions of years. So any technetium that was in a star when it was formed is long gone. And so if we find technetium in a stellar spectra, that star had to make it. And that's how we first started figuring out that elements were being made in stars during their regular lifetimes. And then erbium, I went to a conference, and my good friend Jackie, her undergraduate advisors were hosting us, and I was talking about erbium, and Barb Twarog goes, "Is erbium even an element?" And I'm like, "Yes, it is." So, and stars make it. So I had to have that teacher pin. I just thought that was too cool. And then, of course, hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe. So we got to acknowledge that. So, anyway. So those are my acquisitions for this week, and so that's all the craftiness that I'm going to be talking about. So if you're not interested in farm life and science, I totally get it, and I will hopefully see you next time. But if you are, let's go on and talk a little bit about science. Okay, so on the science front, classes are going extremely well. I think I've got a really good group of students this semester, which is helpful. They seem very engaged, which is nice. They're staying on top of their work. You know, I think it's going well. So that's exciting. I've got some opportunities I'm going to be going and doing some college recruitment days in a couple of weeks. Not the week next week because that's fair week, but the week after I'm going to go do a couple of college fairs. And then got some ideas about some conference type stuff that I want to maybe try to apply for. So work is going really well. We haven't started planetarium shows up yet. It takes the schools like about a month or so to kind of get in the groove of stuff like that. So had a very good meeting with the GT coordinator at Adkins last week, and we've got a great idea for our project, and Sasha has graciously offered to help us again with that. So we're going to be talking about Thomas Nuttall. Thomas Nuttall was an English naturalist, and he took a trip to the New World, so to speak, prior to Arkansas becoming a state, and he sailed down the Mississippi River to the confluence of the Mississippi and the Arkansas River, and then he sailed up the Arkansas River. And the Arkansas River kind of divides the state of Arkansas diagonally in half. You know, literally and kind of geographically, you know, geologically as well. It's kind of interesting. But he sailed up the river, and he documented the Native American tribes that he met and all of the botanical species and all of the fauna, and just made this huge documentation trip, kind of like what Charles Darwin did for the Galapagos, Nuttall did for Arkansas. And this is the bicentennial of his journey. So we decided to focus on that since the Arkansas River literally runs just south of our town. And there was a Cherokee village actually at the site where Adkins would eventually be formed or founded on the river. So we thought that'd be a great sort of cross correlation between different subject areas. We've got a really cool idea for some technology if we can pull it off. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm kind of energized about that project now. So what I wanted to talk about in science was, you know, Tropical Storm Gordon gave me the perfect topic to talk about. Yesterday, there was a post from a friend of mine complaining that we were under a flood watch and there was no rain in sight. Okay. First of all, watches are issued ahead of time so that you can plan. Telling people, oh, it may flood after you're already standing in 2 feet of water is not an effective tool. But the National Weather Service issued a flood watch for a huge area, and they called for up to 7 inches of rain here because they were afraid it would kind of stall out over us. Now, hurricane systems are big, low-pressure systems. They are basically huge groups of organized thunderstorms. And they form up, for the Atlantic hurricanes, they form up off of the west coast of equatorial Africa, and they travel across the Atlantic pushed by the northeast trade winds, because that far south in latitude, the northeast trade winds are the primary driving force of the wind systems. Now, so they move across the Atlantic. Now, the thing about low pressure systems, they tend to turn to the right. In the northern hemisphere, they tend to turn to the right. So what will happen is, as these storms track across the Atlantic, they'll slowly start to turn to the right, and as they turn to the right and head north, they get caught. They get far enough north, they change latitudes to the prevailing westerlies. So the prevailing westerlies are what are over us. And so hurricanes will travel across the Atlantic, and they'll be kind of slowly turning right, and then they'll get caught in the westerlies and get pushed back out across sort of the Ohio Valley out through New England and back out into the Atlantic Ocean. That's what happened with Superstorm Sandy. It kind of came across the northern part of the equatorial band, and it pushed up and went right up the east coast. Got those people's attention when they were complaining that they didn't know why everybody's whining about Katrina. I got a little taste of their own medicine there. Anyway, in D.C., all the politicians are going, I don't understand why they need all these problems with hurricanes down in Louisiana. Well, now they understood. Anyway, that being said, we are under a flood watch because it was going to head right across us, and they've kind of changed how it's going to travel. Tropical systems are notoriously hard to predict once they go inland, kind of which way they're going to curve. So they keep revising the forecast depending on what side of the low pressure system you're on. And what it's going to do, it's going to kind of stall out over us, and we have an unstable atmosphere. So it's going to generate thunderstorms over the top of us for the next few days. And the way, because they're organized bands of thunderstorms, hurricanes come in what are called rain bands, where the strongest storms circle the eye. Those are called the eye wall. And then the next ones out are the next strongest, and they get weaker as you go out. So you'll get the leading edge of the storm, you'll get rain, and then it'll quit, and then you'll get stronger storms, and then it'll quit, and then it'll get stronger storms. Now, because of the way hurricanes rotate, they move this way, and they rotate counterclockwise. So if you're on the east side of the eye, you're on what's called the dirty side of the storm, or the bad side. My friends that live on the Gulf Coast call it the dirty side, because you've got the wind of the storm moving, plus the rotational winds add together. So on the east side of the storm, you get the strongest winds, and you get the storm surge, and you get the more violent storms. Whereas on the west side, because it's rotating counterclockwise, the storm wind, the rotational winds are going one way, and the motion winds are going the opposite way, so they kind of cancel each other out. For example, Katrina, when it came on shore, the Mississippi and Alabama and Florida Panhandle Gulf Coast were on the dirty side. That's why they got the huge storm surges and all of the massive flooding because of that. So, but once they come inland, it's really hard to tell, kind of how much rain we're going to get. Could get, 5 inches of rain. Could get almost none. It's supposed to be here by noon today. I mean, there are some thunderstorm clouds out there, but it really hasn't kicked off yet. So I don't know if that means we're going to get a lot or a little. And it's just because it's notoriously hard to predict. And even out over the open ocean, you'll notice when they're drawing out the plans, those cones get kind of wider and wider, because literally what they do is they have what's called a spaghetti model, where they take all the different models from different companies and different prediction systems, and they average them, and when you draw them all out, it looks like strands of spaghetti, and then they average them to make that prediction cone. And by the time you get 3 days out, that cone's really wide, because they don't know if it's going to shift, if it's going to turn, whatever. And also, is it going to strengthen when it hits the Gulf? I mean, Katrina, if you were paying attention then, when it crossed the southern part of Florida, it was a Cat 1. Nobody was paying any attention to that storm. It was like, oh, Category 1, no big deal. When it hit the Gulf, because the Gulf is more shallow and it tends to be warmer, it exploded. It exploded into a Category 5. And so, you know, it's hard to know for sure that many days out what's going to happen. So I have to err on the side of caution here on the farm. So anyway, so that's a little bit about tropical weather. And so we'll go on now and that leads me nicely into farm life. So we'll go on into farm life. Okay, so here on the farm, as I mentioned in the science segment, we've kind of battened the hatches down for Gordon, Tropical Storm Gordon. And tropical storms obviously are not yet hurricanes, and that's because they haven't reached a maximum sustained wind of 74 miles an hour. And that's some even number of knots. I want to say 70 knots, but that's probably not right. But anyway, but what I have to do as a farmer, with all these lives relying on me, the chickens and the rabbits and the horses and the dogs and the cats and everything, I have to rely on, or I have to assume it's going to be at least as bad as they say. I can't assume that it's not going to be bad. I have to assume that it's going to rain a bunch, that it's going to, you know, there could be flooding. You know, a perfect example of this is when they predict winter weather. If they say, oh, it could come, you know, 4 inches of snow or this many inches of ice or whatever, I have to assume it's going to do that. Because if I don't, and I'm caught out here without feed, and it does do that, you know, then I'm in trouble. Whereas if it doesn't, but I have feed, then oh well, I'm just ahead. So I've realized as a farmer, I have to do what my mom always said: prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And I think that's a good way to live. So today, we weren't at Atkins today. So what I ended up doing was getting up quite early and going to the feed store and laying in a supply of feed. And then I came home and I dumped and filled everybody's water with fresh water. I actually moved my fantail pigeons out of the cage with the chickens because they had 2 babies, and those babies like to get down on the ground, and if that pen were to flood, they would drown. So I moved the pigeons, and then the pigeon that was injured is actually doing better, but it's in a cage up in a higher area, so they should be fine. I gave everybody hay. I cleaned out areas that I thought might flood, filled up everybody's water with fresh water, gave everybody some hay in case we had a long period of rain, because the hay kind of, even though it's not cold, when you get damp, it's always colder. And so rain kind of, hay kind of keeps everybody warm. One of my chickens died. One of my grown chickens died. I don't know why. She was just dead in the coop when I went out there this morning, and these things happen. I mean, those chickens are 3 years old, and I mean, it could be a variety of reasons why she passed away, but I don't know. She hadn't been injured or anything. Rabbits my poor rabbits are blowing their coats, which means they're shedding. Even the ones I want to take to the fair, some of them just look terrible. They just look bedraggled because they're shedding their old fur. I wish they would have been done. I've brushed some of them, try to brush it off, but they generally don't like that. So, yeah. Jacob is not going to be able to come help me build rabbit carriers, so on Sunday I'm going to tattoo rabbits and try to build at least a couple of carriers. I've got some like pet taxis that I can take some of them in, and I've got my little wagon, but I would like to build just some wire carriers to carry some of them in, because I don't want to mix the girls and the boys, because I don't want a bunch of baby rabbits in a month. So got that going on. Rode bow this week. Because it was Labor Day Monday, we went over to the barn and fooled with bow and flame. I was gonna take Gusty back Monday, and I was just so tired after the event at the Escape Ranch this weekend that I decided to wait, and I was going to take her tomorrow before our dressage lesson, but I have a feeling it may be rained out, so I don't know. Have come up with an idea to help get my place cleaned up. The Escape Ranch people are needing to build some facilities like some composting toilets and some showering facilities and stuff. And I got to talking with them, and I said, well, you know, and they've got a couple of people up there that are pretty handy. I said, you know, if you'll come and help me clean up these old house plays and this old barn area, any lumber that's usable you can just have. So I'm hoping that that will work out to where I can get some stuff done on my place, and it'll benefit them and it'll benefit me too. So we'll see. I hope that that all works out. Yeah, and other than that, I got my Starks Brothers catalog for fall trees. So after the fair is over, I'll start maybe making a list of the trees that I want to plant, because I think my garden area, my bigger part, I'm going to turn it into a small orchard. It's not ultimately where I want to have a garden, and trying to keep up with that big of an area as a garden is almost impossible for me to do by myself. So I think I'm going to turn it into a small orchard. So I'm going to look at some trees. Then the co-op does have their fall vegetables, so I'm probably going to plant some fall vegetables in some raised beds that I've got out here. So we'll get that done. But the main thing is the fair is next week. So I got all my online entries done, which is good. Entered several canned goods, and then the stuff that I showed, got that all entered. And some horticulture entries. I entered some okra pods. I'm going to enter some okra pods and some hot peppers and some apples and some eggs. I'm not going to enter honey. I haven't spun my honey this year, so I'm not going to enter honey this year. And but I'll have it for next year, so I'm not too terribly worried about that. So the way the fair is looking like it's going to work this year is Monday, you check in home ec exhibits, which is your sewing and your canning and everything that's in the home ec building, which is photography, art, canning, sewing, that kind of stuff. Then Monday night is rabbit check-in. Tuesday morning, you enter horticultural and floriculture crops. Or no, horticulture, yeah, horticulture and floriculture. No, just horticulture, so just plants. Or excuse me, vegetables. So gourds, I've got a gourd entered. I've got, like I said, my vegetables, my apples and my eggs. Then Wednesday morning you enter cut flowers. So I entered on cut flowers. I entered zinnias, because I have some zinnias blooming. I entered my phlox. I entered some foliage plants because I have a real pretty coleus, and crepe myrtle. My crepe myrtle, I hope it didn't. Yeah, it's still got blooms on it unless this storm comes and blows them all off. And then some basil. So I entered those. I've only got one. My roses are not really blooming, but my rose that I thought was dead is actually still alive, and it's putting on new growth, so that makes me really happy. Tuesday night is the rabbit show. So I've got to tattoo rabbits and cut their nails Sunday. And then if I get carriers built, great. And if I don't, I'll just cobble together my pet taxis and some stuff to carry them down there. So Tuesday night's the rabbit show. Then Wednesday, you got to check in birds at 11:30 for the open show, and the open show is at noon. So I will just take my chickens with me when I go to enter my cut flowers. And then show my chickens. And then I think the reason that they're doing the entries on Monday is so they can have all day Tuesday to judge, and they can open that exhibit building on Wednesday, so that you can look at the home ec exhibits on Wednesday and see how you did instead of having to wait till Thursday. So that'll be good. So if it's open, then I'll be able to go and look to see if I want any ribbons. And our ribbon system at Pope County is a little different. They give premiums. So there's not just one first place. It's if you meet if you meet the first premium standard on your work, then they'll give out multiple first premiums per category. Okay, which I kind of like that. You know, it means more people gets ribbons, and that's cool. What they do is they give out first, second, and third premium, and there's premium money attached to it. You get a little check at the end of the fair when you go pick your stuff up, which I'll have to do next Monday. I need to double check that to make sure that's when we still pick it up. But it's not a placement system. But then what they do is they come back and they look at all the first premiums, and they pull from the different categories for best in show. So, you know, I don't anticipate getting anything best in show this year, which is fine. You know, I don't care, but I do this as kind of a way to check to see my own progress each year. And then with the rabbits, what they do is for us, since there's so few open showers, they'll breeds of rabbit that are similar together, and then the judge will pick the first places, and then the first places will come back, like the first place male and female will come back for best in breed. And then all of the best in breed rabbits come back for best in show. I don't anticipate making that cut either, but you never know. With the chicken show, it kind of changes from year to year, but it's kind of the same thing. It's supposed to be heavy breeds and like Mediterranean breeds, and then bantams go separately. But I don't think they're going to do that this year, so they'll just put all the chickens up there, all the young cockerels, young roosters, the young pullets, and then they have the older roosters and the older pullets. I'm showing a cockerel, a pullet, and then a young trio. So I'm taking my young salmon Favorel. I'm taking 4 of them, but I'm going to pick the best 3 the day of the show to show. So, and then I don't know, I guess they'll take the first places out of the chickens. They've never done best in show for anything but the chickens. The years that I've shown ducks and geese and stuff, they haven't done that. So, which kind of stinks because it's in the program book, and I was always raised, if you offer it in the program book, you're supposed to offer it as an award, but whatever, I'm not going to argue with them. So anyway, so we've got that's the big thing for next week. I'm going to try to take some shorty videos for you guys. An interesting thing that I've been thinking about, Marla and I have already been talking about presenting. Let's see if I can get them to quiet down. Hang on just a second. Okay. So Marla and I have already been talking about presenting at Mystic South, and I'm going to do a program about astronomy, but I also want to talk, my friend Stacy and I have been talking, and maybe Lewis, if we can talk him into it, about how we kind of look at the year, how we organize the year. Because, if you're in academia, sometimes to you, the year may start in August when school starts back. And, to some people that follow certain traditions, the year starts on November 1st or, Halloween. And then, of course, we've got New Year's Day. So different people look at the year differently. And I am coming to realize that I look at the year starting in February, on what sometimes called Candlemas or sometimes called Imbolc. It's sort of the start of the agricultural year. Winter is a season of rest not really, but in terms of growing things, it's a season of rest. And so I've been making kind of a little chart of all the things that I associate with the different seasons. And it's kind of got me wanting to do a painting or a drawing of some of the seasons. Because I was thinking about, what are the different things that I associate with fall? Apples and pumpkins and, the green of the grass and the trees looks tired, and you start to see the leaves change, and the animals start putting on their winter hair. And you choose, if you raise meat animals like I do, you choose the animals that you're going to carry through the winter and the ones that you're going to put in the freezer. We've been laying in food all summer, and we are now getting to the end of that period of time with the last harvest of the garden, because our first frost will come. And and then the animals change their habits. Like my dogs are already starting to do what I call their wintertime sleep pattern, where in the summertime, some of them like to sleep outside, some of them will sleep in the den, some of them will sleep in the kitchen, but in the wintertime, for whatever reason, everybody sleeps in the bedroom with me. My bedroom floor will literally be just a mass of dog beds, because the dogs all want to sleep in the room with me. It's like they den up in the wintertime. And we change our cycles too. We notice the days are getting shorter. We notice even on warm days, early in the morning, there's that little breath of fall air. So I've been thinking about those things, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about, just how we organize our years. Because I've come to realize that, to me, the year begins with Imbolc or Candlemas or whatever you want to call it, February 2nd. Which that's when you burn the greens from Yule, and that's when you start cleaning the garden up. And that really has kind of come to my awareness watching these Edwardian and Victorian farming shows on BBC, talking about the year in life of the Victorian farm or the Edwardian farm. That's been a really cool show. I've enjoyed watching those. So, yeah, so that's kind of where we're at here on the farm. So I'm going to come back and talk about a few final thoughts. Okay, so had the retreat this weekend at the Escape Ranch, and it was very, very good. One of the things that one of the presenters, Selena Fox, talked about was how to sort of bless your space or make your space, spiritually comfortable as well as physically comfortable. And also, too, one of the things that I was thinking about, my friend Lewis tried to give me a compliment, saying, boy, it's cool to see a woman be able to throw a 50-pound bag of feed over her shoulder. And I made some kind of little sarcastic remark about, well, somebody's got to do it at my place. And I've come to realize that I don't know how to take a compliment. I guess because in the back of my mind, I think I'm not worthy of praise or compliments or whatever. I've never been good at taking compliments. I kind of shrink away from them, or I'll deflect them with sarcasm or humor or self-deprecation. And I think that's because I think I'm not good enough, right? We talked about this last week with the "you are worth it" thing. And so one of the things that I want to put into practice is, for my own self, is to learn to be gracious about compliments. Because first of all, if the person didn't believe that I wasn't if the person didn't believe that I was worthy of the compliment, they wouldn't give it, I would hope. And second of all, it's kind of hurtful to them if I kind of blow them off. So, maybe if I couch it in that context, I just need to learn to be gracious and say thank you. Instead of try to, I think I use sarcasm as a defense mechanism a lot of times, where, write it off to bad relationships or whatever you want to write it off to, but I tend to keep people at arm's length through sarcasm. And but the people who really love me and know me, they kind of burrow through all that and know that it's all a front. Lewis and I were talking later this weekend, and he said, I said something about I don't make friends very easily, and but my ones that I do have are very good, But I've come to realize about myself that I need to learn to be more receptive to those things. And because I do struggle for that, I feel like I struggled for acceptance, even though people don't understand that I have, or I want you to approve of my work, so I'm going to enter it in the fair, so you'll give me a ribbon. And so it's hard to take criticism, because constructive criticism even is hard to take at times, because we want to be good and accepted, I guess. So, but I think by the same token, it's just as hard for me to take a compliment. So that's something that I'm going to sort of meditate on and think on in the next little while, is to learn that I am worthy of a compliment, and to learn to be gracious about accepting compliments, because I certainly don't want my friends to have their feelings hurt when I become defensive and sarcastic. So I need to stop that. So that's sort of my final thoughts for today, is to learn graciousness, or graciousness, however you want to call it. That I am maturing into a leader in this community that I'm part of here in Arkansas, and that I have a lot to offer, and that when someone offers me a compliment, they're doing it sincerely. They're not doing it for an agenda or just to be talking. So that's the thing that I'm going to meditate on, is to believe in myself enough to believe that I am worthy of compliments. So that goes back to the I am worth it stuff. I am worth the nice yarn. I am worth the compliments, and I am worth love of my friends and well, I would say my family, but I don't have any blood family, but I have friends that are family. So I'm going to focus on that for the next little while and learn to be more gracious to myself and gracious to others. So until we visit again, y'all get in on those make-alongs, please. Please tell a friend about the podcast and like and subscribe if you haven't already. I would sure like to grow my viewership, but you know, if I don't, that's okay too. I'm going to keep on talking anyway. So until we visit again, I hope that y'all have a good next few days and that you're going to meet your crafting goals. And until we visit again, y'all be good to each other and take care of each other, Willie. Can you tell them? Peace out. Bye.